Hello and welcome to Mastering Commander. We are the Unmasters of Magic, play group of old players who've chose to share our misplays and bad puns with our fellow lovers of this fantastic game we are all addicted to. This is our maiden attempt at this podcast, so we hope you bear with us and enjoy it. I'm the Unmaster. My name's Tim. I've been playing Magic since the dark, 93. So holy crap, have I been playing this for way too long. Mike, how long have you been playing?
Since the second Mirrodon block. Phyrexia.
Missed all the good stuff, okay.
Missed a lot of the bad cards that were over like a high mana cost 2/2 that didn't really do much for 4 or something. I missed a lot of those, yeah. But there are occasional gems back then that are still worth playing, for sure.
All Worm was a threat back in the day. All right, so today we're going to be talking about the Double Masters. This is the set that's been announced a while ago. I remember when I first heard about it and was so excited, and I just kept crossing my fingers. Please, mystery booster price, you know, $150. It's the same price as the regular box, but you get 1/3 less. I can live with that. You know, I can afford that. That's not going to make it where my kids don't get to eat for a month, but I can still get some of my Magic cards. So, of course, I knew I was hopelessly going to be wrong on that. I knew I was ready for it, but ooh. All our prices today are based on Canadian dollars for 2 reasons. One, because it was a much more rounded number at $400 a box. And number 2, Canada rocks. All right. Wizards of the Coast came up with a hell of a set. This set has so many ludicrous reprints, just absolutely crazy reprints. And they're pricing it as such. So we're going to decide if it's worth it. First of all, we're going to talk about a couple of our favorite cards. We didn't want to go with the obvious ones. I mean, yeah, everybody wants a Force of Will. Everybody wants a Mana Crypt. Everybody wants that $100 card in each of these sets. We're going to talk about some of the middle ones. We're going to aim for a little lower and go under 40 generally, and hopefully even lower than that for the most part. Some really good cards that are really good for Commander. So, Mike, how about you lead us off? What was your...
Well, I have to admit that some of the cards I picked were probably, in my opinion, the top card, not necessarily a step down. But overall, yeah, I tried not to pick the most obvious choice. I really wanted to find something that worked in Commander, and that's something that I would personally play, or given the choices to buy, I would like, yes, I want to buy one of those because I need one of those in my deck. So I went for the first one with white. I picked Austere Command. Mostly because I like board wipes. I think board wipes are a ripcord, allowing you to pull your chute to slow down any shenanigans or bad situations that you found yourself in. And with Austere Command, it is definitely a utility board wipe. Not only do you get to pick. Here, I'll read it off to you. Austere Command is 2 white and 4 colorless sorcery. Choose 2. You can destroy all artifacts. You can destroy all enchantments. You can destroy all creatures with converted mana cost 3 or less, and or destroy all creatures with converted mana cost 4 or less. This gives you a nice variety of options when you cast this card to control board state. So that if you are, say, playing with only 4 creatures, but they're all 6/6s, all of a higher mana cost, say, and the other gentleman is that you're facing your team, or opponent, sorry, is playing a go wide deck with a bunch of small stuff that are low casting cost. You can vape his board, keep your board alive. It's almost like a Cyclonic Rift.
And it allows you to control what you're hitting. You can get in artifacts or enchantments. You can get big creatures or small creatures. It makes it more flexible. You have
complete.
Yeah, it's
complete flexibility. And while I've looked at some of the other cards that were out there, and there are some crazy expensive and good quality cards, when you're dealing with Commander, things tend to get away with you. If you get off to a slow start, you need a way to recover. Everybody else is going fast. Everybody else is doing their thing. Everybody else is getting their plan into motion. And Austere Command allows you to either get rid of a creature deck, going off, or even a combo deck using artifacts and enchantments for the combos. It as well gets rid of them. Sure, it's not an exile. It is only a destroy. I find that destroy is good enough to solve a lot of problems. And so that's why I went with the Austere Command.
Well, some quick numbers on that one. Austere Command is in 14% of white decks, according to EDH Rec. So it's definitely a popular card to go with it. It's one of the top 10 cards. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. It's the 7th most used reprint in this set.
Brilliant.
So it's definitely it's not an unknown card, and it's definitely one that should be in a lot of white decks. There's pretty much no reason not to have that in the white deck.
Agreed.
It allows you to control what you're going to lose and what you're not going to lose. All right, so my whites, I went with the most expensive one on all the cards I talked about today, Avacyn, Angel of Hope. I was just thrilled / horrified when they reprinted it because I love to play it, but I don't want people playing it against me. I think every one of my white EDH decks, ones that have white in it, I throw that card in there because I'm a walking Timmy. I love my Johnny's spells and abilities, but deep down, I always love to drop that big 8 casting cost, 8/8 flying, vigilant, indestructible. All your stuff is indestructible. It's so good. It completely controls the game when it hits the table. It redefines everything that's going on, because as soon as it's stable, everybody else's plans change because your stuff is hard to get rid of. You're not going to be able to get rid of that enchantment. You're not going to be able to get rid of that artifact that you need to. The fact that you have to get rid of an indestructible creature to even look at that stuff makes removed from game effects so much more important. It makes it harder to get rid of your commander. It makes it harder to get rid of everything. The Avacyn has to go before anything else happens. And it's still an 8/8 that's just going to attack everything because all your stuff, there's no reason not. Your little one blockers or little tiny guys are great because they'll stop anything and they're not going to die. It's such a bomb. And that one's actually, it's surprising. I couldn't find, let's see if I have the numbers here, but I don't think I do. Sorry, we have technical difficulties. It's only in EDH decks that are white, which is a shock to me. And it was like the 228th most used commander, which I get. An 8 casting cost commander, you're not going to get to that guy till pretty late game. But I was expecting to have that in more decks. It's so good protecting. It just protects everything on your board.
Well, it affects the board state hugely when it lands. Whenever I've played it and I draw it and I get to cast it, the looks on people's faces and other places, they know right away they have to deal with this, and all of a sudden, all my effects that are on my board are not necessarily untouchable, but going to be very hard to remove now. And the game swings almost immediately. The pendulum to put me into more control. So yeah, it's one of those ones they always talk about board state and how a card can affect it. And Avacyn is definitely, as a creature, one of the best. It's the high casting cost, I think, that deters people. And also because it is 3 white, can be a little harder to cast. I mean, granted, to get to 3 white, you're obviously probably already in turn 6 in order to get
a problem because if you're getting 8 mana, half is all you need for white.
Yeah, but 3 white, it does make it a little bit more difficult, I think. But so that's probably some of the limiting factor. And not that it's not
white popular color for commander.
Right.
Doing it, they're not going white, except for me, it was 2 mono.
Yeah, there's a variety of reasons. And it's too expensive to be a commander, really, because, I mean, by the time you get this thing out on turn 8, you'll be, depending on your deck, you might be dead already. So, really, yeah.
Well, not the way we play. We're a very casual.
Well, not the way we play, but then you've seen how we play.
I think the main reason is it's a $45 card. That's after announcing the reprint. It dropped to 45. I think it was 60 to 60. It's going to bounce back because while it's not in enough decks, it's still really. Okay, what's your next one?
Well, before we go to another color, I do want to mention for white that high in my consideration, and I remember discussing with you, was your consideration was land tax. And I want to bring that up because it is, for such a cheap casting cost, it definitely also fits your whole game. It helps your game right away. And sure, it's not mana acceleration, but as you passed to me, it gets lands out of your deck, which means you're better have a better chance of drawing a significant card, and it allows you not to miss your land draws, which is also almost as important as getting mana acceleration.
Oh no,
You
it's
see-
totally early game, and even late game. It's great if you have less board state than the other guy for lands. Don't play the land, drawing them in your hand and getting rid of them. Mana, you want to hit your curve early, but once you get past, you don't want to be drawing land. So early game, you hit your land drops every turn. It is probably one of the best first turn cards you can play, and white is good at that. No card draw. It's not mana ramp, but it still gets you to the land drops.
And it's actually mana fixing.
Yeah, and that too. And late game, you're not going to draw lands. I always play a little too low on my mana curve, or on my how many lands I put in my deck, because the thing I hate the most is late game. You need an answer. You need something good, and you draw a land.
Yeah.
Draw.
Yeah, agreed. I just wanted to bring that up just because, again, such a good card. I couldn't skip over that. And I know that you even said before Avison dropped that land text might have been your choice, and I just had to make sure that we put it in there. So anyway, we're going to move on to blue. Blue, there's a couple of really obvious choices out there. Cyclonic Rift and Force of Will. That's been debated 1,000 times, and all the experts say these are the two you want. So what I did was, rather than going for the best card, I went for a card that I know I'd like to go and buy and build a deck around, and that's Arkham Decks.
Oh yes.
Is legendary. I'm sorry.
Our editor will have to put that one up on the screen because it's not exactly a very well-known.
No,
card.
It's not. So basically, it's a 4 mana. It's a free, colorless, and blue Arkham Dagson, legendary creature, a human artificer. He's 2/2, and he has a tap ability that target artifacts creature's controller sacrifices it. So if you have a little Memnite in play before him, you can sacrifice, say, a Memnite. Then you get to search their library for a non-creature artifact card, put it onto the battlefield, then shuffle your library. So I'm basically sacrificing a Memnite to go get something like a Planar Bridge and put it into play. I can put the Delicate Ori, a Chromism Monument. I can put a Chromatic Ori is now great. Chromatic Ori before cost a lot of mana, and then you got the colorless mana back. For a very simple early turn, I can sack without any mana cost a cheap artifact, which maybe I can recur from my graveyard to go get Chromatic Ori and put that into play, now granting 5 colorless mana that taps for any color. When I seen this card, my eyes lit up, and I thought to myself, sure, I'm not going for creatures, but I can actually, there's a ton of cheap creatures that you can get that they can reoccur, especially in artifacts now, that I can just keep sacking to go get bombs that change the whole board state. And then after that, it's so sure, it's not perfect. No commander is, but when I seen that, it made me happy, and that's what this is about. Does it make me happy? And yes, that creature made me happy.
There were 3 cards that I thought that would combo great with that one. Ichor Wellspring, it's a 2 casting cost artifact. Comes into play, draw a card, goes to your graveyard, draw a card. So you get your card back, and then you sack it, get another card. Plus,
it has to be a creature that you sacked it.
Oh, sorry, my bad.
And you bring in a non-creature. But the non-creature artifacts you bring in are ones that, like, I could bring in what's that amulet that you play in your angel deck that for 4 mana and tap, put a creature to play. Beautiful. Yeah. Sure, it's cheap, but I'm going to use a way to recur all those cheap artifact creatures. There's also enchantments that pump out. I seen one where you sack a creature to create Scry 2, which then creates a Thopter. It's actually released in this. I don't think it's blue though. Anyway, doesn't matter. There are ways to get your
out in the second edition of Ice Age. I'm drawing a blank. Cold Snap. They've gone really heavy for blue-red artifacts. Basically, generation. There's red and blue artifacts or enchantments, creatures, etc. that pump out Thopters and Servos, and you will get a lot of Thopters. To me, I don't know if I'd make that as a commander, but I'd like it in a 99 in an Artificer deck. I haven't made an Artificer deck. There's so many really good looking commanders that would go great with Artificer, including in this set where they printed, what's her name? Joyra? Yeah, they reprinted Joyra.
Until now, I know it's a reprint, but I've been around long enough to necessarily seen some of the real good cards. But I seen this one and thought, I really do want to make a deck out of it. It just would cost me a fortune to get all the really good artifacts to put in. Anyways, that was my choice for blue. I don't have any other notes other than. Oh, right. No, you go ahead. What was your top?
Well, my blue would work really well with your blue. Mine, technically not blue, but in Commander, it's a blue spell. It is Spellskite. 2 colorless for a 0/4 creature. With a Phyrexian mana, which means you can pay 2 life or 1 blue to redirect any spell that could target it to it. I love it in decks that with where I have commanders. The best one it goes into my Muldrotha deck. Because you have to kill Muldrotha. That's just how it is. Otherwise, whatever else you kill just going to come back. And the Spellskite is one of the most perfect cards for this because it protects Muldrotha even if you're tapped out 2 life. If the Spellskite dies, I can cast it back as an artifact or as a creature with Muldrotha ability. It is so good at protecting your commander, just so good at protecting your commander. It's fantastic. It's one of my favorite cards, and I'm so glad they reprinted it. And it's dropped in price since they did it. Unfortunately, I don't have the price in front of me because I'm having problems with Google Docs. Thank you, Google. But it is.
The gods could give us the price of a Spellskite because I've always wanted one. I don't own any. So
I got 2, and they're both in my commander decks for the obvious reasons. All right, you had an honorable mention for blue?
I do, actually. Again, in this, I put another honorable mention, and it's in here, and it's a card that I remember I actually have a couple of them, and that's Pognify.
Yeah.
So for 1 blue instant, destroy target creature, it gets a 3/3 ape. Yes, and I thought to myself, yeah, I'll give them a 3/3 ape. I'll get rid of their, big dumb idiot, and they have an ape.
Yeah, no. Funny though.
Oh, gods have told me that right now, Spellskite can be bought for around, depending on where you're going, it's anywhere from looks like average it's around $6, but you can get it as low as $2.70. So,
I found that one funny because it's a blue spell that creates
I'm sorry?
Blue spell that creates a green creature. It makes a green ape.
Yeah, it creates a green creature, yeah. I mean, worst case is you could always even use it on your own creature if they're trying to steal it. It's just a good, and it's very easy, I find, that we've discussed to keep up 1 mana.
It's a color, it's outside the color pie in a way because blue is ounce less kill.
Yep.
So
Yes.
Blue, and it's 1 blue. You can always get back 1 blue.
You can miss. Yeah, so I had to bring it up. I just had to. Because even in Commander, where you normally use expensive spells, it's sometimes important to have a cheap spell, especially a cheap answer. Yep. Anyway.
Sure.
All right.
Go ahead and hit the next one.
Oh, okay. Oh, sorry. You're right. Moving on. Okay. So I believe I went to black. Now, black was one of the ones I literally took the obvious choice, but I didn't know what the obvious choice was till the very last day. And one of the last days they released a card that I would love to have a lot of times, and it was very expensive. I have no idea what it is now, but I'll have to price it out, or maybe you have the price in front of you. But I went with, it was an obvious choice for me, Toxic Deluge. Again, this is another ripcord type of a card where I could pull a cord, parachute in, get rid of some threats, and restart, especially if I've fallen behind or got myself into trouble. And I absolutely love those kind of cards in Commander. I know they're not always practical in other formats, but we're talking about Commander here. And you have to have board wipes. If you don't have enough in your deck, on the days where you just draw poorly, you find yourself too far behind to catch up. These allow you a chance to restart the race. So I picked Toxic Deluge, and that's what I went with.
It's the cheapest of all the wraths, I believe, unless I'm mistaken.
Wow.
There's a couple of bad ones that are 3 casting cost. There's the City Bust or something like that, where you miss your next untap.
Yeah.
But yeah, it costs you life, but in EDH you have 40 life. There's a reason it's in 13% of decks, and it was, I think they've reprinted it just once after creating it in the Commander decks. It is phenomenal Wrath. It is the second best black Wrath in my opinion. You have Devastation. Well, although this one also, not Devastation, the flipped Wrath of God, I'm drawing a blank on. But this one actually gets rid of Indestructible as well, which is a huge.
Yes.
It's 33.50 right now, and it's in 13% of EDH decks. One thing I mentioned in the last color, Cyclonic Rift was just too easy just too easy. It's in 43% of blue decks.
Yeah.
The only that's ahead of that is Soul Ring, which if you're not playing a Soul Ring in every deck you play, it's because you can't do right now. So my black, I had Toxic Deluge too, but I luckily also on the last day I got to change mine because black I felt this had the worst. Black got kind of screwed in this one. The best black cards were Toxic Deluge, wow, just having a complete brain fart there. Dark Confident, and one on just a couple of cards. I went with an uncommon on mine, Oubliette. Professor did a fantastic card release on this one, probably one of the best spoiler cards I've ever. And I don't even think they do enough on how good this card is. People were complaining that the original one had that rules glitch, I want to call it, because I'm not a fan of it, where you cast it, and while it's on the stack, you can sacrifice it, and it gets rid of the card permanently because the fact that it's exiled until it leaves play has been gotten around. I hate little rule cheats like that personally, but I know why people play with it. So that's the drawback of the new Oubliette. The really good part about the new Oubliette is how good it is in Commander. When it comes into play, it phases out target creature and everything attached to it, which means it keeps its counters, it keeps its equipment, but it also gets rid of the equipment and gets rid of the enchantments, which means they don't go to the graveyard and they can't be re-equipped with something else because they're phased out until Oubliette goes away. And only 2 colors really have a way of permanently getting rid of Oubliette. Blue can bounce it, but green and white are the only ones who can really get rid of it. And you play this on a commander, and unlike when you O-ring a commander, unlike when you do anything else to a commander, bury it, flip it, stick it in the graveyard, it doesn't go back to the command zone. You do not get the option of moving it back to the command zone because it didn't leave play. It's just phased out. So it is one of only a handful, and a very small handful of cards that actually get rid of a commander permanently or semi-permanently at this point. And I think it's really good, especially if you're in a meta that players focus on their commander. All my decks are really based around. You get rid of the commander enough, my decks generally lose a lot of their power. So hopefully my friends don't watch this and don't notice this and don't buy it. Please don't play it on my commanders. I don't want you to play it on my commanders. All right, go ahead with your next one.
Well, I didn't have any honorable mention for black. I will say that Dark Confident was up there as one of those ones where I really liked a lot, but ultimately I couldn't go. So I guess if I did do an honorable mention, it would definitely be Dark Confident, but everybody already knows about Dark Confident anyway. So yeah, let's move on. Red, I had a really hard time with red. Like red always I don't play red a lot, and red tends to, unless you're burning stuff, it tends to be sometimes underwhelming. So
seems to really like, I mean,
and I like sneak attack. Pardon me, I'm so sorry.
Chandra's its Planeswalker for a reason. It really seems to go back towards burn.
Every
time deck or red-blue deck, I end up not, because I don't really just want to play. Well, if you play a creature, let's nuke it. Play another creature, let's nuke it. Let's just fireball them in the face. I don't. It's not the way I want to play Magic, but maybe it's.
Yeah. And that's the thing. I play red wrong. I know it. I don't like to burn. It's like it just. I have the one deck that's not even the commander deck that is fun to burn, but other than that, everything else, no. So I ended up ultimately picking Imperial Recruiter. Now, Imperial Recruiter is basically it's a search card, right? A tutor. It's a creature tutor, but anyway, I'll read it off. It's for 3 casting cost, 2 colors and a red. 1/1 human advisor. When the Imperial Recruiter enters the battlefield, search your library for a creature card with power 2 or less, reveal it, put it into your hand, then shuffle your library. Pretty straightforward. Go for a creature that has low power. You get to put it in your hand. So it basically, for like combo decks and requiring cheap creatures that has this effect that you're looking for, it's a real cheap way to go get it. It's only 3 casting costs, no downside. You get a 1/1 out of it, which the best is if you, for example, the new Baron, a Tolarian Archmage, is a 3 casting cost blue creature who then, when it comes into play, you return a permanent to your hand, and if you do return a permanent to your hand, at the end of the end step, you draw a card. So you play the Imperial Recruiter, going to get Baron, who then you play, which returns the Imperial Recruiter to your hand, which then allows you to draw a card for that, which then you can play in your next turn to go buy another card, which helps on your combo.
Yeah, it's definitely a combo enabler.
I don't play a lot of combo, but I understand how they work. And when I looked at red, I liked sneak attack, but everybody likes sneak attack. How can you not like sneak attack?
Well,
I get to put big red mean things out real cheap and punch face with it. Perhaps even getting also other advantages when it does get into the battlefield. That was my first choice. And then I seen this and I thought to myself, I just like the synergy of this card and how it can just go get other things, and then just keep reoccurring this card, which gets other things.
Or Kiki it, or Splinter Twin it, or Flicker it, or Bounce it. It's a limited.
It's not legendary. You can copy it.
Yeah, it's a limited tutor, but it's in a color that doesn't tutor well. Red does not. These number of colors.
But this gets a walking ballista. This gets stuff like what else was it? I can't remember. I was thinking, what does it get? I can't remember. I think I wrote it down. Give me a second. I didn't write it down. Well, that's genius. Anyway, Walker. Any of those cards. Some of the other cards with low powers that actually do combo with others, or just change the whole board state sometimes. Because just because it's a low power doesn't mean it doesn't have a lot of power.
No, it's a competitive EDH card. It very much is. I mean, it's in 3% of decks, and considering at one point it was $200, not because it's a good card or it's a great card. If you get to $200, you should be an absolute must-have great card. The reason it's so much is because it was only printed in one of the Homeland sets, the one that was only available. It's been reprinted twice now in sets, both as mythic, so it's still pretty limited supply, but it's in 3% of decks. Considering how few
buy this card, because I can't. I'm a cheap son of a bee, but I will say that if someone gave one to me, I wouldn't. So, yeah. What do you pay?
$5, which is at $55. It's still expensive. It's still one of the top. I think it's top 10. Yeah, it's the 8th most expensive card in this out of the mythic category. So it's definitely up there, but it's much better than it was before these last 2 reprints. All right, for red, I got 2 here. I got a Blasphemous Act is the first one. Desperate need of a reprint. It's an auto-include in all red decks. 13 damage to all creatures. It's one of the best, if not the best, creature removal in red, and it gets cheaper. In an EDH, you shouldn't be paying more than 1 for this. You just shouldn't. And 13 damage gets rid of 99.9% of creatures out there, other than Indestructible and a couple of things that are just pumps way crazy. So I think that one doesn't need much to say about it. It's just a really good board wipe. That's our 3rd board wipe. We've been talking about board wipe a lot, and I think people need to realize, I'm sure they do, in this format, a 1-for-1 removal is risky because you lose. Your opponents are drawing 3 cards, you've drawn 1, and you've used 1 card to get rid of 1 card, which means you've fallen 2 cards behind. A wrath effect gets rid of everything for 1 card, which means you don't lose that momentum the same way, especially considering it's 1 red mana, you can replay stuff and then say go. My other one is one that I think needs to be and should be in more EDH decks. Blood Moon. This card downs so many of my decks. And it's funny, because the more expensive your deck is, the more this card will affect it. If you're playing a $5 deck, this deck will do nothing to you. This card does it turns all non-basic lands into mountains. In case it's not it should be on the screen. It's 1 red, 2 colorless enchantment. All non-basic lands are mountains. It's great if you want to make a mountain walk deck, or your commander has mountain walk, etc., etc. But it's just sack lands. Guys who invest $100 in these sack lands, they're mountains. They don't even have a chance to respond when to play them, put them in play. Nope, they're just mountains. Your dual lands are just mountains. Your Maze of Ith is just a mountain. There's so many good lands, especially in Commander, because you have that extra bit of time where you can invest, and the land is a good slot. But it just shuts down all of them. They're all just mountains, and I think more people need to play with it. Just to, worst comes to worst, it doesn't hurt your deck because your non-basic land is now a mountain in your red deck. I mean, if you're playing my Muldrotha deck, this card destroys my Muldrotha deck because I have so much dual lands and so many cards that go for non-basics. There's only like 8 non-basic lands in the deck. This card absolutely destroys it. And there's a lot of very expensive decks and very competitive decks that this wrecks.
Yeah, I agree. Seeing this card, and even as you explain it, you're slowly swinging me over the fact that, gee, maybe I should have picked. Because, you're 100% right. Just the ability to limit your opponent's choices by shutting down all those dual lands. And everybody plays with so many. I think my last Commander game, I only had 5 or 4 basic lands in play out of 10 or 12. Everything else was duels and all, and yeah. So that would have all turned to mountains. That would be it for me for yeah. I probably would not recover from that unless I could find a way to get rid of that enchantment.
It's a card a lot of people hate, but I even if somebody played against me, I don't know how much hate I'd have for it. I can whine with the best of them because it's my own damn fault. I mean, I should have more basic lands in these decks. If I'm playing a 2-color,
but there's all such juicy goodness in some of those other lands that you just gotta have them. Sorry,
I do bad at that. I'm terribly bad at that. As I said, my Muldrotha deck has 8 non-basic lands in it because I just want all the shiny objects in it. Oh, all right. So go next.
Okay, so for green, with so many choices, I really liked. But before I give my choice, I'm going to tell you what the one I really liked but didn't choose was Mana Reflection. That was such a great card. Still a great card. I wouldn't mind if we have a dozen of those. So feel free to ship them to me if you want. Any viewers that have some that want to just give it away, I'll send you the address. Anyway, I went with Avenger of Zendikar. It's a tried and true. You see it in almost so many green decks now, so it's not really a surprise. I think it's underappreciated in some respects because even when it comes to play, and it brings usually a bunch of tokens with it, and if you cast it right, you now play your land, making the tokens bigger because of the effect of it. And I should read off Avenger of Zendikar anyway for
question, Mike.
That's watching this that doesn't know what it is. It is a 7-cost elemental creature, 5/5. For 5 colorless and 2 green. When Avenger of Zendikar enters the battlefield, create a 0/1 plant token for each land you control, and then it has a landfall ability that whenever a land enters the battlefield under your control, put a +1/+1 counter on each plant creature that you control. So this is going to go into counters decks. It's going to go into token decks. It's going to go into any green deck that can afford to cast it, and green can afford to cast big creatures. And even if this creature is removed, a lot of times your plants are still there, which are still a resource you can use for sack, for defense, for anything. And you may even be able to recur it or your graveyard, depending on how they removed it. I just love this card. I've always liked it from the first time I seen it. I think I actually picked up one time a deck, I believe that Wizards put out that actually had like a foil version of this on it.
I remember that.
Yeah, and so I mean, it's just it's not an expensive card. I don't even know what the current cost is. Cost necessarily didn't matter. My choices when I picked, and I just like the fact that this card gave me more resources, so that to fight with in green. And green's creature usually, and it gave me a lot of them. So that's what I go with.
8 bodies for 1 card. A lot of people could put this on their lists of cards that you shouldn't be playing as much. It's in 15% of commander decks, green commander decks, which is a lot. It's like it's rares. It's the highest of all, of all the mythics. It's the highest percent card of every mythic in this set. Now, a lot of that's because Force of Will is so expensive that it's only a 10%. Mana Crypt is so expensive. Everybody put it in every deck if they could afford it. And I think Avengers is $8. I'm guessing that one a little bit from me. But I'm glad they reprinted it because having more of these in play, it's a good card. It's a fun card. It's not going to completely destroy the balance of the game. You got time to react to it. It's a great to me card. This is the type of card I love playing in Commander, and I love in Commander. In regular Standard, the game is over before you can get a card like this out. And that's why I like playing Commander. I want to see these big, shiny things hit the table. I play way too low on the mana curve because I want the impact. I want to get to the point where I can cast the big, shiny object. I want that big effect or big body or that big something that's going to do something that people have to react to. And this is a card that I agree with. I like it. Now, I kind of did go with Mana Reflections, but I did it as a pair. I did Mana Reflections and Exploration, the two mana acceleration cards in the set that I like the best. One early, one late. Exploration, you get it out early. It's a turn one drop, and you can just double up your starts at the beginning. It's great. It's also really good in a deck where you draw cards. So a Simic deck would just drool over this card. Mana Reflection is a late one. I mean, by the time you get to 6 mana, you should be able to cast all but a couple things in your hand anyways.
So Exploration is an enchantment, one casting cost for 1 green. I can play an additional land each turn?
That is correct. Sorry. They're going to be on the screen as well for those of you watching.
Sorry, yeah, that's fine.
Yep. For those, I should definitely be saying it as well. Yes, one green enchantment. You may play an additional card on each of your turns, or an additional land. So yeah, you're drawing cards. Sorry,
apologies. You mentioned another enchantment. Oh, Mana Reflection.
Mana Reflections, the late game one. Green, 4 colorless, double all mana produced by all sources. So it's not a mana flare. It doesn't just do your lands. It does your artifacts. It does your enchantments. Anything that produces mana produces double that much mana. It is in a cycle that was reprinted in this one of all the boons. Like there's the white one for life, the black one for life loss, the red one for double strike, the blue one for doubling all cards, and the green one for doubling all mana. And the green one is worth more than all the other ones combined. Wow. It is 33.50, and all the other ones combined aren't worth that. So it's by far the best of the set, and it's one of the best rares in the entire set for value.
So you're basically saying no one's going to be shipping those to me?
Nobody's going to be shipping those to you. The Exploration, but I find it just by the time if you draw it your opening hand, it's awesome. If you draw it late, unless you're playing a heavy draw card deck, you're not going to use it. I mean, what are the odds of you having 2 lands in your hand late in the game? You've not missed your land drops. And even then, you'll just play the next land the next turn. So I'm kind of torn on that one, but it's still a great card.
Yes.
All right, colors. So how about you start with the artifacts now?
No. Did you go to artifacts? Sure, I can go to artifact first.
Oh, it's whatever you want.
Is that what you want, artifacts?
Sure.
Okay. So of course I went with the absolutely awesome initially Blightsteel Colossus.
It's subtle. Subtle.
Yeah, so.
Yeah.
I guess the reason I went with that, I guess, is I'm not sure if you went with it as well. I hope not, but okay, good. I went with it just because I own one. Because again, I joined. I don't know if you drew them or got them, but back when I first started Magic, I wasn't buying booster boxes. I'd buy I'd just find a little booster box and come with like 9 packs, booster box. Comes with 9. Now they come with 10, but back then they were just 9. And I remember getting one of that, and I'm like, 12, man, how am I going to cast this? I'm not going to be able to cast this. And now, what I know now is, yeah, you don't cast it. you cheated in for 3 or 4 mana somehow, and you scared the living crap out of whoever is your opponent. That's what you do. And even
because you didn't say. I'm going to explain what it is. It's for 12 mana. It's an 11/11 indestructible golem with infect, which for everybody who plays Commander, you have 40 life. But the standard rules for Commander is 11 damage or 11 poison counters still kills you. We've changed it to 20 because we didn't want to encourage people to play Infect, to be honest with you. And it's just a house rule that we have. But yeah, it's a one-shot kill. So if you use that red card you were talking about earlier, Sneak Attack, hey, surprise, knocks out a player. You can fling it at a player. There's so many things, or you just attack with it. It is, how do you deal with an 11/11 trample infect? It's you can't continually throw 11 toughness in front of this thing. You just can't. And
No.
being indestructible means you're not going to kill it with combat damage, and it's just going to eventually kill you unless you draw a spell that's going to get rid of it. And you have to get an exile card, and there's not a ton of them. It's one of the very hard to deal with. I didn't go with the obvious one like that. I went with something a little cheaper than that. By the way, I got a quick story about that. When I said I had 3 of them. I pulled 2 of them in one pack. It's probably the best pack I ever pulled because it had the one and the regular one in the same pack.
Very nice.
I
have to admit.
It's the only double mythic pack I've ever pulled, and I've opened it. I mean, heck, this channel is about box openings too, and you've seen me not pull 2 mythics in the box of open. I'm with 2 lands, Thespian Stage and Maze of Ith. So Maze comes in. It does not tap for mana. It taps to remove an attacking creature from combat. You had a question there, Mike?
What was your artifact?
I went colorless, not artifact.
Okay. Oh, see. So then I would like to mention that I went with creature and a non-creature artifact.
That's fine. You can do yours after. We'll go back.
Okay, sure. Go ahead.
So yeah, the Maze of Ith. It's a great. It doesn't count as a land. Don't use it as your land slot. But it's a hard to remove protection for yourself, and you can use it in politics. Guy attacks with the Blightsteel Colossus. What will you give me to that from combat? He's not going to attack you. You have the Maze of Ith. You can use it for politics. Unless you're Roger, then you won't use it for politics. You'll get that if you watch our gameplays. The other one is Thespian Stage, which is a horrifying, underappreciated land. Comes into play tapped, but it comes into play as a copy of any land, it comes into play taps. 2 mana, tap. It becomes a copy of target land, but it maintains this ability. So it is always the best land on the table. Because whatever you have, it's going to be that until something better comes up. And EDH is the format for all the greatest lands in Magic. Maze of Ith, Gaia's Cradle, the Cabal Coffers. If the guy plays the one that makes everything a swamp, the Urborg, and he plays his Cabal Coffers, well, you also have the Cabal Coffers because you don't need the Urborg. It's every combo land you need. It's all of them. And that's not even counting the one it's printed as a combo with in this set, the Dark Depths. So it's a 1-card combo with Dark Depths. You make a copy of it, and hey, it's 2020 indestructible land. That was an ugly part of that format at the time when they had the Dark Depths land, and it came out in the same set as the 2 black vampire Hexmage that you sacrifice to remove all counters. So it was just a turn 3 20/20 flying indestructible. Yeah, that's going to be something you can deal with on turn 3. All right, so go ahead and do your.
I did pick as my land. I actually did pick Maze of Ith as well, for all the reasons you said. Then one reason you didn't say, so I'll bring it up, is I like Maze of Ith because in the last few years I've seen a lot of really good creatures that have good effects, except for one drawback, that you must attack with them in order to generate your effect. So attacking with them into a sure kill for your creature is now nullified when you maze your own creature, but you still get the effect. So I think that's an underused part of that Maze of Ith. In those decks where you want some of these creatures which have very good effects, I think there's an Ahev that's absolutely awesome, except for the fact that you have to attack with it to get the effect, which allows it to be very vulnerable. So
the best example of that situation is one of the the International Women's Day cards that they re-released. Then, you got me forgotten. Narset has to attack. It's a 3/4 body though, so the only way you can stop the combo is by blocking and killing it, and everybody has to go do it. But with the Maze of Ith, then he gets his extra turns, and he just untaps Maze of Ith and redoes it. It just enables that one. That one used to be a dominant top-tier commander. Luckily, it's fallen out of favor, mostly because it is one of the most solitaire commanders in Magic, because, I got another turn. Okay, I got 2 more turns. I got another turn. Eventually,
That's right.
Probably not.
Also for artifacts, I did do, like I said, the colors was my Maze of Ith, but non-artifact, it was so hard to choose. So basically, I have one word for you, Tim, and I don't mean plowshares. I'm talking swords.
Yeah.
All the swords here, all of them have good effects, some better than others, but all are pretty amazing. Even Sword of the Meek is part of a combo, an ultimate combo. So it's the swords are here. They are still expensive, so don't go rushing out to buy a dozen. But they're pretty amazing, and they should be mentioned as picking. If you grab any sword, you're probably making a good choice by putting it in whatever deck it suits, or doesn't suit. They're just good.
Yeah, like the Sword of Fire and Ice, blue and red. Somebody's playing blue. Guaranteed, somebody's playing blue. It stops your creature from being unsummoned at the very least. It stops them from being burned from the pro red. It makes it so much harder to block. There's going to be somebody on the table. There's 3 opponents at all times start of the game, there's 3 components in Commander. 3 colors you have. Somebody's going to have difficulty blocking. It's going to be more difficult for somebody to block that creature than normal. Right there. It's +2/+2. There's a reason that the Fire and Ice is $100 still after the rebate.
It's a great.
They're all, I think there's the cheapest ones about $20, $25, and most of them are in the $50 range. Yeah. They are the cards you're not unhappy if you pull that in this set. It's the cycle that as soon as they printed the first one, I wondered if they'd go with all 5, and they did. And they're all great cards.
Super impressive.
Even the worst ones, yeah. All right. All right, so that is the end of our pre-combat scene.
No, it's not for me, unless you're. I'm so sorry. I do have a bit more. Apologies, Tim. When we didn't actually talk about doing more than just the 5 colors and the stuff, but I actually did the multicolor just because there's a few there. So I did avoid most of the legendaries because most of those were good and could be great commanders. So I wanted to go with Merciless Eviction, except that I've already went with 2 board wipes, so I didn't want to go again, even though for all the exact same reasons we went with the other ones. Not only is it good, but it gives you options, and it definitely saves your butt when you get to bed. So Maelstrom Nexus was sexy, but it's 5 casting costs and only goes in a 5-color deck. So skip past that. And actually, it's quite affordable, though. It's like $4 or $5, I believe.
It's fun.
Yeah, it's 5 colors. But it's kind of cool, and I liked it. I never heard of it before. It was good. So I chose, because it's right in my alley too, Death Reap Ritual. So it's an enchantment, and I believe it's 4 colorless, it's 3 colors maybe. 3 colors, black and green? No, 2.
2 colorless. So it's 4 casting costs.
Okay, black, green, and 2 colorless. Okay, yeah, there you go. So I should write that down, shouldn't I? Anyway, I should read it off to you because I do have it here in front of me. I'm so sorry. You just
Magic. You just did an Unmasters of Magic. It's all good. We're used to it.
Oh yeah. So it's it's a 4 casting cost enchantment, and more of it at the beginning of each end step, and that's important. Each end step, if the creature died this turn, you may draw a card. It's also a may, so you don't have to draw the card if you're in trouble or getting low. So it gives you the option of may drawing a card. It also allows you to draw on anyone's turn. In a smart build, of course, you'll have control of that rather than having just random creatures die, which happens all the time, like you pointed out. Creatures die every turn almost. If you put it in the right deck, you're controlling when stuff dies and when you're drawing the cards and whether you want to draw the cards. And I just seen this card, and it's an uncommon, which is just staggering for only 4 mana. I really love this card, and I looked at some of the other stuff, and I'm like, this uncommon is right up my alley. It's going to allow me to sack raw cards when I'm doing my thing, which is usually killing creatures. So, yeah, I really like this card.
Oh, it's very good in this because if you're not attacking, you might be blocking. Every creature you lose while this is on the table replaces the card.
You only get to draw the 1 card, but
yeah, You lose
You
8 creatures.
But either way, if you do it right, if someone's attacking you, you can choose which creature's dying because you're choosing blockers anyway, usually, and you get a benefit from that. So yeah, and then granted, I know hopefully as affordable. I'm not sure what the price going is, or if you have it in front of you. I know you did a lot of work on stats for that, but I think I might go buy one, or 2 or 5.
I think they're 25 cents to 50 cents right now, depending on where they stabilize.
Can you imagine? Such a great card.
It was a limited supply card before because it was out of conspiracy, and it wasn't a huge print. That's why you don't see a ton of underappreciated.
It's beautiful. It doesn't say non-token. Token creatures count. Beautiful.
And black and green, they never have tokens. No, I have no idea.
Sacking for mana. Ashnod's Altar, you're sacking those for mana. Beautiful.
Yeah. The Merciless Eviction's a nice one to talk about. Just I know you had the bunch board wipes, but I want to talk about it anyways. Just for the reason, all the cards in the set, it is number 2 on EDH Rec's list of cards in decks. Now, granted, it's white-black, which limits how many decks it is compared to Cyclonic Rift, which is blue, or number 3 on the list, which is Blasphemous Act, and white is Wrath of God. You'll notice a lot of mono colors there. But Merciless Eviction's 28 of white, blue, or white, black decks. And it's understandable why. It exiles whatever you need to be exiled. Yeah.
Such a great effect. All right. Well, there you go. That was our rambling list of choices.
All right. So now we're going to move on to the combat stage. So the combat step. We're going to call this the Math is Hard Money Talk. This is. I hope you can keep this entertaining, and I'll try and make it quick because everybody loves to hear nerds talk about math. Yay! All right. So I did some basic math on this one. I'll explain where I got the numbers from. So we're using Canadian dollars because, as I said, $400, nice, easy, round number to sort by. There are 24 packs, which means there are 24 rare slots, but there's double because it's double masters, 48. Statistically, you're going to pull 1 rare mythic a box. That's not one rare mythic, 1 rare or mythic foil per box. 49 rare cards in the set, in slots. Generally, statistically, you're going to pull 6 to 7 mythics in a box as well. So that's the numbers I'm basing it on. What I did is I took every single rare, every single mythic in this set. And with the 7 mythics, you're going to pull out approximately 49 rare slot cards. You should get approximately 42 rares and 7 mythics. Based on that number, I took the average values of the sets and values of the mythics and the rares. I also took the median value because just because it's average doesn't mean it's the median. There's a lot of high-end cards that skew the average value of a pack here. If you don't pull one of those $200, $100 cards, the 3 or 4 in that area, it's really going to drop the value of your deck. So the average rare in this set is $7.25, which is really high. I mean, if you did this in any other set with a $5 or a $4 pack, almost every time you pull a pack, you're getting almost double the value. Drawback,
Dream.
Not a $4 pack. This works out to $16.33 a pack. So you have to get 2 average cards, and you're still not making your money back. So you're really relying on the high value of the cards because the median value of this set is $4 rares. So it's probably more likely you're going to get $4 or less cards. 50% of the times you pull each pack is going to come with two cards. Half the time, each of those cards is going to be worth $4 or less dollars. Half the time, it's going to be worth more than $4. That's a big number. That means there's so many 50-cent cards in this one. I think 1/3 of the cards you're going to pull in this set for rares are worth less than $2. That really skews down the fact that you are farming the really valuable cards to make this deck worthwhile. But even then, based on those numbers, now then we go into the mythics where this is high. A mythic, the average mythic is $33, and the median mythic is $30. Which means if you pull a mythic, you're getting your money's worth. Almost exclusively, you're getting your money's worth because they are very good value. There's a couple of bombs that are worth anywhere from $1 to $4, but very few of them, and for the most part, they're almost all worth the price of a pack. So that's 7 packs paid for right there, if not more. Based on those numbers, the median and the average, I did the average on a pack. If you open a pack of cards The average value of a box of cards is going to be $535 out of a $400 pack. That's the average. The median is actually only $378. So you're probably, there's going to be a lot of people not hitting that $400 value to hit the average, because some guys are going to clean up. They're going to pull a double mythic bombs and make 5 times their value. Now, one thing about these numbers. So 378 is the median, 535 is the average. That does not include the box toppers. The reason I didn't include the box toppers in this is, in my opinion, the box toppers are pure gambling. Just unadulterated gambling. The bottom end ones is like, at this point, $20 for a Phyrexian Metamorph, as opposed to $500 for a Force of Will. And now I think that Force of Will is going to drop, because I remember when the Invocation came out, which was the epitome of the rarest Force of Will the first time, it started at about $300 or $400, and it settled to $200. So I think that's Force of Will is going to drop to about $200 at the end as well. But the fact that there is such a huge variation, where you have box toppers that are commons and box toppers that are uncommons, and then you have box toppers that are $500. It is such a huge swing that it couldn't include those into the numbers with any sort of accuracy. But the fact that the median value of these packs is 378 without the box toppers and without the commons and uncommons. And we mentioned a few in our list of commons and uncommons that are valuable. Some of the uncommons range from $3 to $8. The Oubliette being the most expensive at $8. Urza's Bauble at about $6. Path to Exile at $3, which is a very good EDH card. And even the commons. I mean, there's not a ton of commons worth money, but the Urza's lands are $1.50, and a couple other cards are still in the dollar range. You're going to make your money back on this, but you have to invest $400 to do it. The box toppers are basically going to be gravy. You should make your money back at dollar for dollar. Now, this isn't sale value. This isn't if you go into a store and say, hey, I want $400 worth of trade. They're going to give you $200 worth of money for it. So unless you have to have a site you're selling it yourself or selling it on eBay to get the money, but you should get your money back on this. And the box toppers are gravy. All right, so that is the math. That is the math on this. Now we go into the end step. I want your opinion. Do you feel that this is worth $400? We've talked about how these cards, some of them, the most valuable cards in the set are in the Mythic category. Mana Crypt, broken under $200. Force of Will, $170. Jace the Mind Sculptor, about $100. Sword of Fire and Ice, $100. Chrome Mox, $60. Dublin Season, $60. Blightsteel Colossus, $60. That's in the Mythics. The rares still have 7 rares over $30. Noble Hierarch, $30. Stoneforge Mystic in the $30s. Toxic Deluge and Mana Reflections in the $30s. Walking Ballista, Planic Rift, and Exploration at $50. There's some value in this set. What do you think of the $400 box? Mike, what do you think?
You're talking to the audience. Sorry, I drifted off there. No kidding. So actually, when I first was looking at this set, I thought there's no way I want to pay $400 for a booster box. And then it goes up to, I think, face-to-face, or I should mention anyone, but a local Canadian supplier has it for $425 now. It's gone up. And then I think to myself, there's so many other things we can buy with that. We even discussed that. We thought about even doing a bit about that. Well, some of the stuff you could spend your money on for $400. And I started that, and as I was doing
that's a switch in games. That's 20 lap dances. Like, this is not a small amount of money. This is
travel expenses to anywhere, but hotel reservations. Yeah, you could use this money for things that you need around the house, or just other luxuries or passions that you have. But then as I was doing it, I started to realize, and as they release more cards, is like, well, it's extravagant, but some of these cards I really want. And there's really no real bad cards really in the set. Are they valued enough to cover your $400 expenses? Probably not. And I think that's why when they call it a booster box, that's what it's for. Realistically, you want to use it to boost your draft. Everybody chips in, 6 people, you split one box. So I'm not sure you're good at math. Whatever 6 divided by 400,
$40,
reasonable.
a lot of money.
Still a lot of money, but it's good entertainment for an evening. You get to keep the cards you do draft, and you can set it and you can booster draft it, and you can have a lot of fun and keep the value from what you get. You're probably not going to get your money back, and but it's still, that's what it's for. To go buy the box, yeah, it's the retail value that people look at when they go, well, I pulled this $150 card. You're right. It's only $150 to someone who's buying it.
Or really,
if you try to sell it, you're going to have to do the private sale. And a lot of times they may not even bother going to you. They're going to go to the card stores and buy from the card stores. They may not trust the person on Kijiji. They may not trust the person on eBay. They're going to want to go to a legitimate supplier, so they're going to pay them more money. You might be stuck either with the card for your own self, which if you're like me, I barely use all the cards I have now. I need to buy more. So I think it's best to pick and choose out of the set stuff that you really want, that you can afford. Those you take your money and you go buy them at your local game store. And if you do have an extra few bucks, you decide you want to have a booster draft with your friends and they all agree, then go out and have a great Friday night at Magic doing a booster draft.
I'm going to disagree with you on this. I'm a big fan. Like I have boxes that are sitting around waiting for booster drafts just to do it. And outside of how the world is right now, we can't really do booster drafts. The fact this would be probably this could be the worst set to booster draft for one reason. I told you the averages and the median values. One guy is going to spend $40 and get $5 worth of cards, where the other guy $40 and get $200 worth of cards.
Yes.
The swing is so big on this, where the value comes from that one card that carries it so much. Like half a box is paid for by some of these cards, right? A third of the box, a quarter of the box with one cards. If you're going to buy this box, this is a set where you buy it to crack it for yourself, because you need to get your value back on $400.
But you don't.
Value. You can't be gambling with this set. $400 is a lot of money to be putting into Magic cards, unless you're getting specifically what you want. You can buy hundreds of Magic cards for $400. Whereas if you're doing this is, if I'm buying a $400 box, I'm opening it because I'm hoping that I get more than $400 of the cards, and I'm for myself. If the booster draft with a set $150 box, booster draft to Corey where you're getting the theme, booster draft Theros where you're getting the booster draft, the set, the command M21 booster draft, that where you're getting the themes, the ideas, and a balanced set where you can play against each other. In this one, the guy who gets the really good card here, a Blightsteel Colossus, you're not going to beat that guy. You're just not going to beat that guy with this set.
Well, you have limited. If you're drafting limited, you're not going to cast that guy. You may draft it, but you won't cast it. What I'm saying, though, is I think we're missing the point. I think we're coming at it from different angles. The booster draft for me is one of the most enjoyable things I do with Magic. I always look forward to each release. I love it when we get together. I love when we do a limited draft and make a deck and try them out and play and see how everything does. Playing with cards that maybe we necessarily won't ever play with again, but just interactions. And it's affordable. And I do not have myself personally right now to go take $425 to go buy this booster box. I'm not going to have it next month either. But I can probably scrounge up $40 or $50 to go buy 3 packs. Whether I get my $60 Mythic or I only get $12 worth of cards out of it, I'm still going to have a night of fun with friends. And for me, that's a huge thing. And it's affordable. It's like going to dinner and a movie, which we can't do now either. But if you could go, it's in the same price range, and that's a night out or an evening out. Whereas $400 or $425, that's a weekend away into Banff, maybe. You know, it's not just an evening. So you have to weigh pros and cons. If you have the money and you want that, then I guess sure, go buy it. I think for a lot of average Joes that I know, the booster thing would, if they're going to buy, would be the only way they're doing it. They're not rushing out to buy these $425 box or 2. Imagine someone that's buying 2 of them. But then there are people there that will. Okay. No kidding. I'm teasing. Not this time. I think one's probably your limit this time.
I've bought a box or two of every set. I bought 3 boxes of mystery boosters. I've opened two on this channel. That's an investment you can justify. That's your week or monthly or 3-month budget for cards. I don't know if I'm going to buy a $400 box of cards. I mean, it's not even that I wouldn't get my value back. That's an investment. I budget myself a certain amount of money for Magic cards every 3 months because that's how much the set comes out. That's a year's worth of Magic cards. I mean, I love getting the commander precons and 2 entire sets of the commander precons. Like I can have an entire set to play with, an entire set to strip, and it's still it's the same price, and you're getting hundreds of cards.
And the Wizard this year, Wizards of the Coast, have released a lot of product, and that you, as an investor investing into this for your channel, as they roll these out, and now it's like they got more and more expensive till they got to lay this big one on you in the middle of the year after you've already had a lot of product released. And coming up, we're going to have the Commander boosters, which I'm really, really looking forward to because that's what we play. And I think part of me would be, I'm going to save my money for those boosters. These are great, and I love them. But coming up, that's the Command booster that I'm really looking forward to, which you're going to invest in as well. And it's just such an extravagant cost. You're right.
We say that though, but if this is a successful product and people buy these boxes like crazy, how much do you think those commander packs are going to be? It's going to be another $400.
Initially, I thought we were going to see $10 packs of boosters. Now I'm starting to think it might be $20.
Yeah, these are $16.30 a pack, and that's if you buy the box. You buy it in the store, you're looking at probably close to.
Yeah, it's scary. It's scary stuff. But I guess we'll find out in September. What's the price of the? Will we doing this again?
Had $400. If this was inside your budget, you decided, well, I'm not going to buy the next 3 sets because I'm going to buy this one set. Would you buy this set at $400? Or would you buy the individual cards you need?
You know, again, initially when they first started coming, they were releasing some of the stuff. I'm like, no. But then as they release more cards, everything in the set really is useful and, if not great, but at least good. Even the bad cards are like, oh, I can still use that. That's still good. And so I thought to myself, oh, I want to say yes, I really do, because I would love. I guess if I just had $400, what a great way to add to my Magic collection. Pretty much everything is playable. You're not going to find any losses in it. Go, I'm just never going to put this card in the deck. Even the uncommons are uncommonly good, which we discussed before. So I probably would. I think, you know, if I just had $400 extra, you know, but I don't. So I work for a living, and unfortunately, like everybody else, with the way things are now, not always getting the full hours. A lot of hours are cut from people. They don't necessarily have that extra disposable income right now. So if someone just handed me the $400 and said, yeah, this is a gift, go buy this, love it and think it's worth it. But then you could get burned, not get your value, but every card is going to be playable. If you're just trying to
and you're going to get a good amount of value in this. Even if you don't quite get $400, you're still going to get a lot of value. Right. I'm going to do 2 more quick points, and then we're going to wrap this up. One is I would almost suggest this is a good opportunity to take that $400 and buy the cards you want. Because just because you pull a $100 card, it might not be the $100 card you want. Great, you got this card, but it might not be your style. It may not be the type of decks you play. It may not fit anything you want. You might have that. I'd almost suggest going out and buying $100 or $400 worth of the cards you want out of this set, because there's a lot of bottom end stuff that is just great, just fantastic. The chaff in this deck, it's not worth the money of the pack, but you're going to play it. I mean, except for the stuff that's banned. Don't get me onto the Colossus. I mean, nobody's going to play that card. It's 8 mana. It's only good in Commander, and it's banned in Commander. But you could get a lot of chaff in this thing and just pick and choose the ones you want and really boost your set and really boost your collection for $100. The drawback is the local gaming stores, I don't think, are going to be cracking this. Not because it's not value for them, but because none of them are open, and who knows if they're going to be open in the next year. And I don't think they can afford to sit on this much product for a while when they're not open and they don't know when they're going to be open again. This would be one of those support your local gaming stores moments, but I think it might be a miss on that. I haven't decided if I'm going to buy a box. You'll all know because I will be opening this on this channel if I end up getting it. But this is something everybody's going to have to really think hard. And a third drawback on this is if this feeds, if we buy this product, like we want to all buy this product, Wizards of the Coast is just going to jack up the price again on the next product and the next product. Right now, you can buy a set. You can buy Theros and just play the Theros. You'll get the good cards. Or you can buy the collector's packs. I don't begrudge them that. You get fancy, you get shinier cards, but you still get in card. You're not playing a different game of Magic than me because you have more money than me. You're just getting a shinier, prettier version. Whereas in this, yeah, you got the box toppers up, but just looking at the set, not looking at the box toppers, that's a lot of money. That is excluding a lot of people. There's not the kids aren't going to the store and their dad gives them $10 or $5 for Magic to buy a pack. They need 20 to buy a pack.
I agree. Okay, so
I'd just like to say this. We hope you enjoyed this introductory podcast, and hope put your comments below on what you think of what we're done, what you like, what you don't like. There'll be a prize for the most constructive criticism, not the meanest. We will send you a prize. And when it comes to Magic, may the gods of mana never leave you screwed. Goodbye, and see you next time on Masters of Magic and the Mastering Commander podcast. End cut.